Hello my friends on WildRift and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. Today we're going to take a look at a lovely Zeri gameplay done with my lovely friend Chronix and other people to bring you something very interesting, how to pilot the champion, and just overall seeing how this champion functions. This was my very first game playing on Zeri, and you'll see a little learning curve throughout the game. The champion in itself isn't really that complicated. Combo-wise, there's not much you need to understand or know. It's most of the time just you smashing your first ability as often as you can when you have it available. Other than that, it's about finding the proper angles for your second ability and jumping over walls so you don't put yourself in a bad spot. In this game, I'm playing Zeri and Yuumi into Nami and Lucian. Normally we should have the upper edge in this lane because Yuumi is a very fun and interactive champion. And it's just very lovely. Oh, sorry, I meant Lulu. Well, I can't really even look at things properly. So, for laning, Zeri properly plays about her first ability and auto attacks from range. As you see, I'm trying to hit through the brush as I can aim my auto attack to maybe hit some enemy champion beforehand. Now is a moment where Yuumi should detach. Yuumi should detach and help me bully the Lulu, because the Lulu has isolated herself from the Lucian. But my Yuumi is casually chilling and doesn't use summoner spells, and now finally uses summoner spells. So I nearly died for my Yuumi sins because my Yuumi didn't want to play at all. For all of you Yuumi players out there, during the laning phase, it's very mandatory that you detach and constantly attack enemies. You need to do so because your champion benefits from it so much. Because if there's any danger for you, you can just attach back and just sit on your AD carry. Another nice thing for Zeri is generally the fact that if you damage enemy shields, you get a shield yourself. It's quite nice to have, but for laning, it's quite difficult to do anything because your champion has a limited range and you can only tap your first abilities on enemies. If you're allowed to do so, however, you're gonna have a fun time. Another nice thing for Zeri as a champion is that we can just hop over walls with our third ability whenever we need to. But generally speaking, we want a lane which we can dominate, and Zeri most of the time is paired best with an enchanter champion. Just makes it so much better for her to dominate lane and not get behind, because Zeri from behind is not a champion. But Zeri ahead is a menace to deal with. She will just run you down and gun you down and just move around all teamfights without any problem. But also, don't forget, patience is the key when you play this game. You can't put yourself in positions, like for example in this case, we know that there has been an enemy player around here, they took Scuttlecrab, so it was very risky to do anything in the river, and it's just our goal to get the wave into the tower soon. Or, rather, in this instance, look at the wave by the way. There's one minion and Lucian has clearly stated that he wants to go base, so I'll be an annoying piece of, well, I should probably beep that one out, but that's what it is. All I'll do is constantly try to cancel him as he tries to go base because he doesn't have the resources anymore. Lucian without mana is absolutely useless, and your second ability upon touching walls extends and makes the life living hell for the Lucian. Also, don't forget that the enemy jungler was previously up here, which means he should now be on the other side of the map, which gives a little bit of leeway to play the game. And always be annoying. Losing the cannon here, if you think about what Yuumi did beforehand in early game, I think it's very likely to assume that my Yuumi would not have detached and played the game, and I would have died there if I go for the cannon. But maybe my Yuumi is gonna be very interested in pressing spells, as in detaching, giving me a shield, or doing anything, but as you see, my Yuumi is kind of troubled with her ability usage, or her champion in general, so we are choosing the relaxing side here. But it's completely okay, and it's not the worst. It can always be worse, because if you die, things get really problematic. But as you see top left with the item selection, I'm going for a Black Cleaver. Black Cleaver, by the way, procs all stacks instantly once you attack an enemy because of your passive, how it works, like shooting 6 little bullets. And then you'll deal a metric ton of damage. Sadly though, The lane, as it went, really cost us a little bit of gold, and us losing the cannon and some other minions along the lines really mattered because we don't have our Black Cleaver. And Black Cleaver is such a massive power spike due to the armor shred and just the overall stats the item provides. It is beyond crazy. But if there's something that's really fun, it's about this here. Look, my jungler is fighting in the river and ulting the enemy, and I'm just collapsing onto them with my jungler. I can just slide over the wall, take the Yuumi with me, and gun them down. Here, the Yone is in fog of war, so I have to dodge. I have to move downwards a little bit, because if I don't do so, I'll get absolutely blasted into Narnia. Another problem here, however, my Yuumi doesn't even detach once to do anything, as you see, and therefore, I'll just die. So, Yuumi players out there, please get familiar with detaching and doing something. You deal a lot of damage in the early game. Also, using summoner spells, as you see, would have been a lovely thing. I was actually quite mad when that happened. I was really mad because my Yuumi didn't play at all, and that's really painful because Yuumi is such a powerful laning champion, and we could have had such nice plays in the early game and just punish the enemy for making mistakes. For example, during the laning phase, if an enemy isolates, punish him, attack him, both of you. But if there's something that's kind of weird with Zeri, sometimes her auto attacks feel very weird with the targeting. It doesn't always feel like it works as you want it to work. But maybe it's just experience, maybe it's just unfortunately dragging the attack button, but you really need to get used to it. In this very instance, since we've already committed for those plays on this side of the map, we go for the dragon, even though the dragon is really not good. Don't get me wrong, dragons, when you have all three, are really powerful, but dragons in general are just not worth it. But the funny thing is with Zeri, you can always catch people off guard. When, like, you do an objective, the enemy thinks they're safe because they have an idea from the timer that they've gotten presented with in the global announcement, and then you just hop over a wall, blast your second ability into a wall, slow the enemy from 10-kilometer range, and then run them down. It's really fun and super unexpected, because don't forget, the champion has not been out. It was the first day this champion was out, in fact just a few hours after. And then getting confronted with people who have already an idea what this champion does from League PC, it gets really troublesome for you, because how are you supposed to know if you don't know? You have to read up, and people usually don't like reading up, because if they did, we would have a lot less problems in WildRift. Because reading is really powerful when it comes to items, abilities, etc, etc, and the game would be so far further ahead in terms of meta development, personal strength, skill, etc if people would just read, at least sometimes. It sounds kinda weird and completely out of the ordinary, but it is the truth. And here my Yuumi could press R on the Lucian, because the Lucian dashed over the wall into the Yuumi's face. So I would not be forced to go over this wall to make this play, but I get really emotional and angry and just go over and we both die. Which I think is fair. It's kind of a low-key punishment for my Yuumi for not pressing the buttons accordingly, but at least we died hand in hand and went to Wonderland. Technically speaking, not a good play, but we just wing with it. Generally for items, in this very gameplay, I go for Black Cleaver and Essence Reaver, as you already see. I want to go for super high ability haste that allows me to have many abilities and bonus damage on my abilities, plus infinite mana. Because the more you spam your abilities, you'll realize you can actually go out of mana, and especially through or around objectives, having your second ability on a super low cooldown can be really helpful. Maximizing skills on this champion is also a different thing. Like, you want to always max your first ability first, that's obvious. But then, it's about your third or second ability. Your third ability's scaling, like the penetration damage increases, but your second ability's base damage also increases, so it's just a little question, but most of the time you want your third ability because it's just the best ability you can ask for. Also, for AD carries, collect jungle camps, collect any type of gold possible. Oh, and here we have something funny. Take a good look what is happening. You see the Lucian recalling, so we should wait. But Yuumi should not use her first ability, she should just wait. And now this is getting a little bit scuffed. Look at the auto-targeting. Like, I think it's my mistake with targeting, because it swaps multiple times. But I don't know if it is due to my settings or if it's due to the champion. I really don't know, because I didn't have this problem with other champions before, because normally it locks on one champion and just keeps on focusing that champion, but here it just seemed to be different. Maybe with the alt attack range, I really don't know. Nonetheless, if you want to be pixel perfect, this play is supposed to go vastly different. We let the Lucian recall because he desynced the recall with the Lulu. We jump at the Lulu, we kill the Lulu, and we're all happy. We can kill both, but we need to both play better. I need to focus one person, Mayumi needs to detach and do something, and then we also get away with it. But the way we played it just doesn't work. What you also have to know about Zeri is he's a very short-range carry, which means if the enemy team has a lot of mages or high-ranged abilities in general, you will not have a fun time. You will not be able to get close and you'll just get killed. It's rather difficult because this champion ahead can be really toxic, but even if you're ahead into certain compositions, you just won't be able to do anything. It's just too problematic. Also here, as an AD carry, if there's no reason for you to be far away on the side lanes to amass gold, you can locate yourself to a specific lane that's already closest to the next objective and just go for potential pickups, especially with Zeri. She's a special case for that, because your rotations are rather fast because walls don't really have value against you. You just jump over them and say, "Hello, it's me, good sir. How is life today?" The next item I decide for is Solari Charge Blade. Solari Charge Blade for the reason is that I want more burst damage. I tap somebody with my first ability and then I want bonus damage from my crit. I just want to hurt them quite a lot, and if somebody gets close to me, I'll just blow them up. There's other options such as Rune and Hurricane, etc, but yeah, that's, I think, preference, to be fair. And with the dragon spawning, I think it's very important that we take care of this wave first, but my team has other ideas. They're like, well, it's time to end friends, even though we didn't need that at all. But luckily with Zeri, we can snipe the enemy from range and just go in. Our ultimate is a massive AoE damage and we just run them down. We can try to avoid and relocate in the fight by jumping over walls and just going for the next available target. And just make sure to go for one target, then the other target, and then the next target. You're basically some kind of an assassin, and with that done, things get really troublesome for the enemy team to follow up on you. Because what happens if you jump over walls? They can't really do too much, and if they clump up, you deal a lot of DPS with your zapping from your ultimate, because your auto attacks start chaining. Now, it's just the typical AD carry thing. You want to get gold, and more gold, over and over and over again. My Vi is leaving the Herald mid lane. Typical gold amassing strategy, but my Vi has spent a little bit too much time in the mid lane and dies as a consequence. Even though her entire topside jungle was kind of available, and she died for nothing, because don't forget there's no platings available, so towers are just towers. Similar to other champions such as Kai'Sa, Zeri is able to assassinate people. Like, you can sit in a brush and then use your second ability to slow somebody down and then hunt them down, similar to Kai'Sa using her second ability and then ulting onto somebody's head. It's very possible and it's very nice to do. When it comes to decision making in this game, or generally on Zeri, you usually want to isolate people in general, or you want to have a front line that allows you to go for subsequent 1v1s, or to hit every enemy at the same time. Realistically speaking, that is very difficult to happen, or very unlikely to happen, unless you have a Braum walking in front of you that just makes life easier. And if I wasn't Zeri, by the way, I would be 100% dead. But luckily, I can just hop the wall and peace out. Also, by the way, for plants, you need to use the plant button to make really sure that you hit the plant. Otherwise, it's absolutely unlikely. And it's really annoying. Sorry, unreliable. With Baron on the table, for me it's very important, if possible, to stay in the middle or the bottom lane. Just to make sure that I can alternate between both, because I want to be closest to the Nasher. If I'm seen on the other side of the map, the enemy team has an easy way to go for Nasher, and then I'll be too late. Here, this is more of an emotional rotation, but using my jungler as a tool to go in and just gunning them down, as you see, like the enemy makes a mistake and now I'm just relentlessly chasing them down. If they break formation, I'll just kill them without any problem. But even then, I was just not able, without any other dash available from Protobelt in this instance or another third ability, Brand just instantly killed me. That is the biggest downside of this champion. This will happen to you because you have to get so close, which makes Black Cleaver so important, because if you don't have Black Cleaver, you have even less HP. Also, I believe Zeri is most likely one of the highest skill ceiling champions in the game. There's so much you can do in terms of movement, in terms of using your auto attack to kite, because you can cast it by choice and not by locking onto somebody, and just generally using terrain as an advantage, how you want to play the fight or how you perceive the fight to develop in the next 10 seconds, 20 seconds. It's a very powerful thing that a champion can abuse. Not every champion has the ability to do so. A similar champion would be Talon in how he maneuvers the map, but he doesn't even have cooldown on his jump apart from the cooldown on individual walls, so he doesn't have to care about this at all. Zeri, however, needs to be a little bit more careful, because her third ability also has value when it comes to team fighting, in just raw damage perspectives. The Brand just did the typical camera thing. He didn't pan his camera, walked to an RA charm, we've all done it, and we hate it. Now there's not much to accomplish here, so we try to go into the enemy jungle and just pillage the enemy jungle camps. We can't end the game, there's nothing to do, so just take as much away from the enemy team as possible, because that gold they cannot get. And the more gold you take away from them while amassing it on your end, just makes it easier for you to carry. Next item here is Infinity Edge. Absolutely normal, highest damage possible, to just make sure we crit for even higher numbers. My last item in this instance can be pretty much anything, but it's probably going to be Bloodthirster. Bloodthirster because you lack sustain. Like all AD carries, certain champions, or just champions in general, need sustain. You might deal a lot of damage, but if you don't have anything left in terms of sustain, you'll just die, because you have to go base. And this is also something Zeri can do for her teammates. You can set up fights by using your second ability over the wall and allowing your teammates to hunt people down. But funnily enough, I go over this wall to hunt the Crux, and then there is a wild Yone coming around the corner and killing me. Zeri as a champion, if fed, just runs down people, especially with an enchanter such as Yumi or Lulu. It's very similar to the Tristana incident. We all hate or love it if we, actually play it. But yeah. With this champion, you'll most of the time just realize that winning lane matters, yes, but you can still get something done if you haven't won. There's a lot of damage you can do before a fight with your second ability, because you can easily set it up for objectives. And you can use your teammates as body bags to then go in. The biggest issue I have with Zeri, though, is that we don't really have any broken first item outside of Black Cleaver. It feels kind of weird to have an item that doesn't have crit as your first item, but it feels so mandatory for the playstyle we are forced to play in with Zeri. If there was another option, for example on League PC, then we could maybe think about this, but we just don't have it. Also, other item choices that we can look into are items such as Navori, Runans, or defensive options. Funnily enough, you can see like another assassin thing, but Mr. Brand is quite the damage shield. Like, I miss my second ability and he misses his stun, ults me, ignites me, and I nearly die, by the way. I just get blown up. How funny is that one? Because to this day and until all eternity, AP champions will be broken, and when I see Yone just jump over the wall with his third ability, third charge, I'm just, okay, I can do the same, I can also just jump over walls. And here Mr. Lucian says goodbye and the enemy team is completely isolated, so it's just the typical thing. Run them down. Find them, gun them down, pop the ghost, pop the ult and keep on running. But I'm really curious to see how much more damage you can do with a Lulu on you. With the Lulu, you're gonna have really fun times because the damage will be nutty. So many pix procs and just so much speed and damage, you're gonna have a fun ride. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel and come back for more. See you soon, gamers.